My name is Kristen Jansen, and I work with Conservation Nebraska. Conservation Nebraska's mission is to protect our state's natural legacy by educating the public, supporting communities, and increasing environmental stewardship, which we accomplish through locally led education efforts and community engagement projects to address local conservation concerns. Before today's speaker, there's just a few housekeeping things to go over. Your cameras will be off and you will be muted throughout the presentation. So please type any questions that you have into the chat or the Q&A section, and we will answer those. This presentation is being recorded, and it'll be uploaded to Conservation Nebraska's YouTube page within the next couple of weeks. So if you missed any part of the presentation or would like to revisit it or share it with others, you will be able to find it there. So today we welcome Dana Stahl, who is with Keep Cass County Beautiful, and she's going to talk to us about recycling in Cass County. So I will go ahead and let her take it away.
All right, well, welcome everyone. Kristen, can you still hear me? Excellent. Okay, this is going to be challenging because I can't hear anyone there, but I will do my best, and you can type questions into the screen if you have them. So I believe I have my screen shared here. So the presentation I'm going to be talking about this evening is called Our Waste, Our Responsibility, Recycling in Cass County. My name is Dana Stahl. I'm the former director of Keep Cass County Beautiful, so I'm kind of in a transitional phase right now. I believe we have the new director present tonight at our meeting. I don't know if you've introduced Jenna yet, or Jenna, if you want to say a few words. Okay. Am I good to go on, Kristen?
Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Jenna Schambach. I'm the new director.
Hello, everyone.
So it's great to see everybody, and I'm just taking everything in this time, but I'm sure I'll see you guys in the future.
Good to go on? Okay, awesome. So I prepared this presentation today to talk more in depth about specifically how recycling works in Cass County, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, what some opportunities are, and hopefully I can answer some questions that you might all have in relation to recycling, sustainability, composting in Cass County. So question, and you might have to write it in the chat, Kristen, for you, is where is the Cass County landfill? So if you have any guesses or anything to write, go ahead and write that in the chat, or maybe Kristen, you can write it in the chat if anyone has any ideas. I'm going to pull up this chat so I don't miss anything. Cindy says we don't have one. Anyone else? We don't know. Okay. Any other guesses? Okay, well, you were right on. Those Cindy said we don't have one. We don't know. That's because there isn't a landfill in Cass County. Lucky us, because who wants to have a landfill in their backyard? Probably no one. So we just kind of outsource our trash. As you'll see on this next slide, I'll talk more about that. Oops, I went too far. So where does our trash go then if it doesn't stay in Cass County? Sometimes it can go over to Iowa, but oftentimes it goes to David City, which is approximately 88 miles away and about an hour and a half drive. So think of all of our trash in Cass County that we create as being carted an hour and a half one way away to dispose of it in the landfill in David City. Sarpy County did have a landfill, but it is now full and closed, so that's no longer an option. So I like to ask the question, well, what are we going to do in, that estimated about 10 years or less or a little more when that landfill option. Additionally, Nebraska is ranked third for the per person amount of trash produced. So we are producing a lot of trash in Nebraska comparatively to other states, and definitely more so than other countries. So I know we've all heard the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle. I couldn't do a presentation without mentioning this, but it's something we teach kids when they're young. We hear it all the time, the 3 R's, and it's a phrase that most people are familiar with that promotes environmental awareness and sustainability, and it encourages everyone to reduce their consumption and waste and look for alternative ways to reuse products rather than throwing them away. So how to reduce? Reducing consumption involves minimizing reuse and the amount of, so instead of buying substitute things, borrow, or even go. So other ways to reduce conscientious consumption. And conscientious consumption basically is when you're very aware of what you're buying, why you're buying it. Maybe you think before you're buying something. We've all been in the stores and, we're just walking through to get one thing and we find a bunch of other things we think we need in the moment. So something we can do is give it the 24 or 48-hour rule where you wait before you buy something to see if you really are needing it. And conserving energy and water, by doing things like we've all learned since we were kids, turning off lights and electronics, maybe unplugging them when we're not using them, go for a trip. Using natural light and layers in your house instead of turning up on the thermostat. And then conserving water, taking shorter showers, turning off the water when you brush your teeth, that kind of thing. And then lastly, food reduction, food waste reduction. So a lot of us are kind of guilty of overbuying, myself included, overbuying groceries and wasting food. So meal planning, learning how to properly store your food to prolong freshness. And one thing I think is also very interesting is if food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest polluter in the world. So that is because about 40% of food in the United States is wasted, thrown away, whether it's in the very beginning or the end. And that leads to methane gas in landfills when food isn't allowed to decompose properly via composting or outdoors. It loses the ability to decompose properly because it lacks sunlight and air. So that creates methane gas. Just making sure, Kristen, you can hear me? Yes? Okay. Making sure you can still hear me because I can't hear. And then we go to reuse. So reusing involves basically what it says, finding ways to reuse items multiple times instead of throwing them away after a single use. So this really helps with the amount of landfill waste by conserving resources and energy required for manufacturing these items that we're, maybe using once and then just throwing them away. Some ways to reuse, donating or selling items. And I like the idea of donating items, but also it's important to be careful when you're donating items, where you're donating them. If you would like them to have the chance to actually be reused or sold like at a thrift store. So donating it to local thrift stores or selling on Marketplace so you can match someone up with something they actually want is a good idea. And then using reusable products. So there's a variety of ways you can reuse. And when you're shopping, bring your own bags to the store, maybe bring your own carry-out containers to restaurants, reusable straws, cups. It runs the gamut. There's all kinds of things you can reuse. And then repurposing old materials that you might otherwise throw away or donating them somewhere where they can reuse them. How to recycle. Of course, we're all probably very familiar with this if you're attending this event because you have an interest in it. So it's probably nothing earth-shattering I'm going to share with you, but recycling is essential to creating a sustainable environment because let's face it, we're not going to be able to always reuse, reduce, that type of thing. We have to eat. So getting groceries requires us to consume things and have recyclable materials. So when we're recycling, we're hopefully preventing them from going to the landfill, which is great, but recycling also does still take an enormous amount of energy to recycle something. It has to be hauled to the recycler, then it has to be processed, then it has to be sold either to, somewhere in state, maybe out of state, maybe out of the country, and then remade, made into something new. So that all takes energy as well, but still better than landfilling where that item's never going to be used again. Some ways to recycle, and these are all available to us in Cass County, I'll mention. Electronic waste recycling. We have an event coming up April 18th where you can bring anything with a quarter battery to us in Weeping Water. And then we have 2 more events, one in June in Eagle and another in, I believe it's Beaver Lake this year. So basically we take it all. The only thing we charge for is TVs. Then you have traditional recycling, paper, cardboard, plastic, metal, glass, and then the hefty energy bag, or it's called rebranded Renew bag now, that is available in Cass County in Nebraska. And that's very unique to Nebraska and Omaha because it's not offered in most places in the United States. And then lastly, composting. Organic waste, I like to say that's nature's way of recycling. So that's an amazing way to reduce methane gas and create your own fertilizer. I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but if anyone has questions or needs something, repeated, or just mention it in the chat. It's fine if you want to interrupt me when I'm presenting. It won't bother me. So options for recycling in your community. So these are some things that I thought of that we have here in Cass County. There's a lot of curbside recycling services, though it's not offered everywhere. So there's so many little special, improvement districts, and there's little villages, and then there's Plattsmouth. So they're all kind of different, but a lot of these areas do offer the curbside recycling. We offer a lot of special one-day recycling events. So just this year, in Cass County, we're having a tire amnesty collection. We're having a household hazardous waste collection for the first time. This will be the first time we've ever hosted one of those. And then we've started having quarterly cardboard and can recycling events that we just had one, I think last one 2 weeks ago. And then a lot of villages and cities have roll-offs in their community where people can bring their recycling to, like Eagle and Union. And Lake Wakanda, I know, have them. South Bend as well. So sometimes that's an option in your community. And then you can also save your recycled materials and bring them in. Usually you have to bring the recycled materials up to Omaha. And I started that because that's actually kind of Omaha's recycling, but I know a lot of out-of-towners from Cass County do utilize that service and take their recycling up there. But it is supposed to be only for Omaha, but I know a lot of people do it. So that, I guess, is an option some people take advantage of. And then there's numerous scrap metal facilities in Omaha that you can, save your cans and your metal and take them up there too. So it's nice that we're only, 20, 30 minutes from Omaha. I don't know if anyone's heard of Plastilite, but if you have an abundance of EPS, expanded polystyrene styrofoam, that you would like to recycle, you can bring it up to Omaha to Plastilite. It's kind of a drive. It's in the northern part of Omaha, but they have some big bins and bags that they accept the EPS styrofoam. So they say their rule is if it's styrofoam and it bends, that means it's not recyclable there. But if it's the kind that will, snap and break, then you can bring it up to Plastilite. And then lastly, the Renew bag that's exclusive to Omaha and Nebraska, that includes a variety of recycling. Basically, it's any of your hard to recycle plastic. So I have some slides. I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth here soon. I'm just going to pause here. Susan asked, where is the electronic recycling? So that is in Weeping Water on April 18th. We always have the Saturday events from 9 to noon, and it will be at the Weeping Water Ball Diamonds. They're having their cleanup day the same time as well on the other side of the ball diamonds. So you can basically bring, if you have any trash, anything that they will accept there to that event as well. So awesome. Thanks for the question. Okay, so where does our recycling go? Some of you might already know this, but the majority of recycling in the entire state of Nebraska goes to First Star Fiber, and that is in Omaha. And they process, I would say, hundreds of thousands of tons of material. I mean, you're looking at, they get the recycling from an entire state. So very busy recycling facility. We were making trips up there pretty much weekly, Cindy and I, up until we started renting roll-offs, but the same material always goes up there to First Star Fiber. That is a picture of our environmental club students getting a tour of the recycling club for our year-end kind of special event. So they thought that was pretty awesome that they got to go and tour the recycling center, and we got to see some of the renew bag materials being made into plastic lumber. Next, Ripple Glass gets most of the glass that's recycled, even in Cass County. So we partner with a company called Glassman Recycling. So if you've used any of the glass recycling stations that we have one in Plattsmouth on Chicago Avenue, and then we have one now in Eagle right next to the recycling bin. So those are open 24/7. You can take your glass jars and bottles there, and then they take it, Glassman picks it up, brings it to Bellevue. They have a glass crusher there, and then they sell it to Ripple Glass, which then turns it into, most of the time, fiberglass, but sometimes it gets turned back into glass. So that's kind of how the system works. And Ripple Glass is based out of Kansas City. So being a large state, we have what's called hub and spoke recycling. So basically First Star acts as the hub, Omaha, and then all the recycling from across the state of Nebraska primarily goes to First Star Fiber. So they act as spokes going into that hub. And I wanted to mention, a lot of people complain about recycling costing money. I know that can be kind of frustrating because you're like, well, I'm giving them my resources. Why do I have to pay for it? But if you consider the changing markets and the values and how much money it takes to run the enormous recycling center that First Star Fiber is, you kind of start to understand, why it costs money, because anytime you bring a load of recycling in, you have to pay a tipping fee for that. And so that goes to, the employees, all the equipment, everything it takes to keep that recycling center going. So that's why it costs money to recycle, because it's not as simple as just taking it to the landfill and dumping it. So a little bit more in depth about the Renew Bag. I'm guessing a lot of us are familiar with this, but it is a program that's unique to Nebraska. I believe there's 2 other places. They have the Renew Bag in Atlanta, Georgia, and Boise, Idaho, I believe. It was started as a pilot program, but I think it's been running about 10 years now. So it's kind of, it's been here quite a while now. And basically it helps to reduce waste for your hard to recycle plastics. First, they were using the plastic to make synthetic oils and lubricants. That's why they were called it the energy bag, because it was creating energy. But now it's being used to make the plastic lumber. And additionally, there is a program called Nextrex, which we were big on for a while, collecting the plastic film, same kind of things, but not as inclusive as the Renew Bag. And then when you collect 1,000 pounds through Nextrex, they would mail you a free park bench. So I think we received about 4 benches in Cass County through different organizations that collected the plastic. But they've kind of changed the program now where they're not just giving you a free park bench. It's more like you get your name entered to potentially win different products made of their materials. So it's a little bit different and not, guaranteed to get something, which can be a little bit frustrating, but some people still might be interested in doing something like that. So this is a picture of the lumber that's created from the Renew Bag that you can get. And if I'm not sure how well you can see this because it's probably kind of small, but all of these items here can go into the renew bag. It's like I said, it's pretty all inclusive. And someone from First Star once told me that it's also pretty forgiving. Like if you put the wrong kind of thing in it, I guess it doesn't really affect it like it would something else that's being recycled. So it basically includes like almost all of your hard to recycle items. I know when I was in Nebraska for 7 years, I'm in Michigan now. That's why I'm not here this evening. But basically, my husband and I were able to maintain zero waste in our home and never have to throw anything away because this renew bag really allowed us to put anything we couldn't recycle in our regular recycling to be recycled. So, like I said before, another form of recycling, I think, is composting. If you're not a composter yet, you should be. It's pretty easy and it's a lot of fun, especially if you have kids. They really, really get into this. Um, so basically, there's hundreds, thousands of videos on YouTube. You can go and research and see how you can start your own compost at your house. You can basically start it in a pile. You can start it in any kind of bin, or you can put some pallets together and create a recycling bin. It's free. Then you get your own fertilizer. And so there's a lot of rewards. Additionally, reducing the methane gas that you are creating, putting food into the landfills. If you don't want to mess with composting, but you still would like to compost, there's a really cool option with our close proximity to Omaha. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of Soil Dynamics or Hillside Solutions, but they are a composting service. So you can buy a subscription for a very affordable price. I think we have one as we use a lot of compostable materials with our sustainability program, and it costs about $74 a year, I believe. And we bring a lot of composting to these bins. They have them all throughout Omaha and Bellevue, and I've heard that they might be expanding their program because they're kind of starting a nonprofit to where they get grant funds to help them expand their composting program. But it's really interesting. Another cool thing is you get a load of free compost every year with your subscription. So if you're a big gardener, or even for your flowers, you can pick up that compost and use it for your garden, and they'll just make the compost for you. So now I'm going to get into talking about actual recycling in Cass County, and I kind of broke it down with what I think some of our strengths are and some of the weaknesses. And this might be where we have more questions, so feel free to. It looks like I have. It's $8.99 to take it there. Okay, Cindy, were you referring to the composting? Okay, so the price went up a little bit then. Perfect. Thank you for that information. There's information in the chat about how much it costs now. I think they've just still honored us at that reduced rate, maybe because long-term customers are but I think, yeah, if you pay a year in advance, they give you a discount, much like discounted price. So awesome. Okay, so recycling in Cass County. Some of the strengths we have in Cass County that I think some counties and areas don't have in Nebraska is that we are pretty close to Omaha, like I said before. So if we were a long ways away from Omaha, it'd be really hard to use their services for like plastilite, styrofoam recycling, or to get glass recycling, or even to take the recycling to Omaha. To rent the roll-offs would be much more costly. So we have a lot of really good things going for us being so close to Omaha. I think there's a lot of interest in recycling in Cass County. It seems like our recycling events are very well attended and supported. So it's nice to have the support of the community with a lot of businesses, individuals. We get a lot of memberships and support from just individuals and businesses every year through Keep Cass County Beautiful. The fact that we have several options in Cass County with curbside recycling, or drop off at the roll off bins, or bringing it up to Omaha is a lot more than some areas have. Keep Cass County Beautiful provides a lot of options for recycling. Like I was talking about before, we're, collecting tires this year. We're doing household hazardous waste, and just a lot of events we host in the community every year. So if you're not following us on Facebook, or you'd like to get our newsletter so you can be aware of all those collections and when and where and everything, we can add you to our mailing list. We send a newsletter every other week with all that information. And like I said, it's always on Facebook as well. So, so in Cass County, I'm not sure how many are aware, we do have an interlocal agreement. So if an SID or a school or a village, community, whatever, would like to take advantage of recycling through the interlocal agreement, if you sign that contract with basically the Cass County commissioners kind of manage this, they will give you up to $1,500 at a 50% match. So a lot of like schools and businesses are taking advantage of this right now through the interlocal agreement. So if it, costs $3,000 to recycle for the year for that school, then the county will reimburse up to $1,500. So that's a really nice thing that we have in the community, that they'll help with those expenses. So a lot of schools and businesses are taking advantage of that. And we also assist with the recycling directly through Keep Cass County Beautiful. I know Cindy's always busy running around doing all the recycling with the schools and businesses. And so the interlocal helps us manage that as well. Now to the challenges. So some of the challenges in Cass County that I see, and maybe there are more we can identify, but we don't have like a universal recycling system or program throughout the county that's the same everywhere. So I really, there's really no place you can go where it's like exactly the same. So like in Lake Wakanda, it's going to be different than it is in Union or Plattsmouth or Beaver Lake, wherever. So a lot of communities have gone to the curbside pickup for recycling. Louisville is kind of unique in that they basically contract with one trash pickup company that also picks up their recycling. I believe they partner with Papillion Sanitation. And so it's the same everywhere. So they get a reduced rate. And so they have a universal recycling system there, but most places don't. So that makes it challenging. And like in Plattsmouth, where basically you pick what kind of recycle company you want. And there's all these different ones running all around Plattsmouth all the time. So that actually drives up the price because there isn't a universal recycling program. And like I said, it's dependent on where you live. If you're in Ashland, it's totally different than it might be in Plattsmouth. And also recycling can cost money. It's not always free. We try to make it as affordable and free as much as possible to various things like the glass, like the electronics. And we host special events where you can get rid of cardboard and cans and it's free. But if you're going to have recycling on a regular basis come to your house, it's going to cost you some money. There are ways around it, but if you want that convenience. So another problem is, like we talked about, we don't have a landfill in Cass County. So that trash is just being taken out of the county and we don't see it. So we don't really see any of the waste we create. So it's easy to just keep creating that waste and not have a visual reminder of the waste that we're creating. So I think it's great. We don't have to see it, but it's also like, who cares, because it's getting outsourced and I don't have to deal with it. Of course, we've probably all heard somebody talking about negative recycling. Well, it's not really getting recycled, or I just don't care. So a negative view or the apathy, lack of care for recycling. I think the majority of people do appreciate and want recycling, but some people just don't care and maybe are never going to care. So that can be frustrating as well. And if there's other strengths, weaknesses you can think of and you want to type those in the chat, feel free. Move this over here. So some things I thought of that would be helpful in Cass County and the community to advocate for recycling and sustainability. Some things you can do to help. Make sure that you're recycling the right way. So if in doubt, there's a saying, if in doubt, throw it out. So if you're not sure what you're putting in the recycle bin is actually recyclable, you probably want to do some research, make some calls, or throw it out if you're not sure, because contamination is a big issue. And if there's such a high rate of contamination at the recycling center and they, dump a load and it's highly contaminated, they end up having to throw that out. So we want to make sure we're recycling the right way, having bottles and cans clean and, not putting shredded paper in the recycle bin. Those types of things really go a long way and helps us when we're out and about in the community. As I have a picture of one of the permanent recycling bins we got in Plattsmouth this year through a grant, and then a picture at the Cass County Fair. So we have a lot of people who, just throw the trash in the recycle bins and vice versa. So it really helps us when you take time to read the labels and recycle the right way. It saves us time and energy and frustration. Attending village or city meetings, if you have a concern or if you want to see recycling stay or expand or whatever it is, it makes a big difference if you actually attend meetings and talk to people and voice your concern. I know there's been several times when recycling almost went away in different villages or cities, and people stepped in, came to the meetings and were able to keep that because they voiced their concern about it. Donating to support recycling, or like even a membership to keep Cass County beautiful, or donating to anything that promotes recycling sustainability is really helpful. We definitely have a lot of support, but we could always use more. And there's even other organizations, that you could donate to and help support them as well. Like I was talking about, Hillside Solutions has created a nonprofit to help expand composting, which I think is really important. So that would be a great place to donate to as well. And then, of course, working towards consuming less. Everything we are not throwing into the landfills is helpful for the future and for sustainability. And we can always use volunteers at our Keep Cass County Beautiful events. We have a lot coming up. We especially are in need of some volunteers for our household hazardous waste event coming up. So volunteering at events, not just with our organization, but any organization that promotes recycling, sustainability, whatever is helpful. And then speaking up, like not just at the village or city meetings, but a lot of times at restaurants, if I go to restaurants, and they're doing something sustainable, maybe using compostable carry-out containers or not just automatically handing out straws, I let that be known that I really appreciate that, what they're doing, or, you can gently make a suggestion to them to kind of let them know that you're thinking about and you value those things. Also talking to county commissioners, maybe saying thank you, that we really appreciate the interlocal agreement that you have, or, recycling really matters in the community, or any of those types of things. They like to hear from their constituents, and it can make a big difference. And then something kind of fun, maybe see how close you can get to being zero waste as a challenge to your family or even as an individual. I think it's kind of a fun challenge. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, maybe that's something you can get into. There's a lot of great books out there that I could recommend as well if you like to read. And just some additional things that you can do to help out. I'm almost finished. I think I have like 2 slides left, then we'll open it up for conversation. But commit to only buying things when necessary. So you could take the challenge I was kind of mentioning before, but like by buying no new things unless it's absolutely necessary. Do some research about things like fast fashion, and maybe make more informed choices about where you're putting your dollars and who it's helping out. And in relation to that, so before you buy things, do your research and find out, is it ethical? Is it good for the environment? Just making more informed choices really helps out a lot. And then kind of repeated, make it a game to see how thrifty you can be. I like to try to find things at a thrift store if I can, if there's any way I can do that. Looking at, okay. So that's kind of the end of my presentation, but I wanted to end it by asking some questions, and maybe, I know I can't hear anyone because for some reason our speaker isn't working, but I'll throw some questions out there and then we can write in the chat and we can kind of discuss those. But what is your vision for Cass County or even Nebraska? So you're here tonight because you're probably interested in the same things that we are and that we're talking about. What kind of future do we want to leave for our children? And how can we best preserve our world for future generations? And maybe what does that look like to you? What do you see happening and what should the future be? I think that is, yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to turn it back here because these are the questions though. So thank you for your time. Thanks for joining on a Thursday night. And I'm so bummed that I can't hear you guys because my speaker is not working, but hopefully we can have a little conversation in the chat. And if there's any questions I can answer, I would love to try to do that. Or maybe Jenna, I think Jenna and Cindy and Kristen are there. They're all with Keep Cass County Beautiful. So they can probably chime in as well if they'd like. Okay, so it looks like Kristen typed in, there's a vision for Cass County to have its own recycling center. I think that would be amazing. I'm not sure. I think it could be in the future. I'm not sure if that was one of your thoughts, Kristen, or who commented and said that. I honestly had never thought of that, so that's very interesting. Jenna, awesome. Maybe keep Cass County beautiful. We can make it happen eventually when we continue to grow. I don't know if we have other questions or comments. I know we have a board member, Steve Dodd. He's been on our board for many years, and his vision, he's always talking about a circular economy. So where like basically everything is, that we use can be reused and it just keeps going and going and going. He started living zero waste when the trash company he was using dumped them up at Happy Hollow, and they were unable to find a trash company that would visit their neighborhood or pick up there. So they learned to definitely change the way they lived. And so he's a big proponent and advocate for creating a circular economy. So he loves to talk about that. And I think it's an awesome idea. I want to leave a healthy planet for my kids so they can enjoy nature like I have my entire life. Definitely. I recently read a book, if like we have any readers on here, but it was called There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather. And it talks about the importance of getting outside and enjoying nature and the differences between primarily Sweden and the United States with how we interact with the environment and basically how much time we're spending outside. So if anyone's interested in that book, it's extremely interesting. I'm not sure who typed that comment, Kristen, with I want to leave a healthy planet. I think that's great, though. Okay, awesome.
And I did put in the chat, Susan, that the Facebook is Keep Cass County Beautiful, Nebraska. So if you put that in the search, you should be able to find it. If you have any issues, I can send you an email as well. I should have your email since you're on the Zoom. If there aren't any more questions, then we will wrap things up. Thank you so much to Dana for being here to present this information. I think it was really helpful to kind of see what we're doing well in Cass County and areas that we can improve.